Hello, Pisces. Welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor, and today I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. Obviously, this is not a tea leaf. This is the Ace of Cups, and this is the energy that we are going to start with. So every reading, I get set up, I get our tea leaves all together, steeped. I drink the tea, I let the tea leaves settle where they will, and then I pull a card, okay? I pull a card so I know what is the atmosphere of this situation? What is the context? What does it feel like approaching whatever's going on? If it is love, if it is finance, if it is an ordeal, if it is a blessing, if it is all the things, right? So the Ace of Cups, what is that all about? Yeah, it's the Holy Grail. It is the vessel of those sacred waters, your emotions, your dreams, the inspiration that gets you going there. It is the healing force. It is a true source of sustenance. And to have the Ace of Cups, we know that you are learning, you are intentionally focused on, you are practicing, the development of your emotionality. How that flows with your intuitions, with your likely psychic abilities. How does it flow with your creativity, the belovedness within your life? We're going to see. We're going to check it out. We're going to see how it all goes together. So, Pisces, I want to say thank you so much for clicking on the reading. You know, if you've been here, you know. I always say it. It is my great honor to do these readings for you. And that is so true. I feel your energy before I even begin. I love to sit and commune with spirit, but also to feel all of the energies that you have going on in your life, but also the ones that kind of travel with you. You know, your elders, your ancestors, your guardians, the entities that kind of travel alongside. So thank you for that. And if you want to like, subscribe, or leave a comment, I would love to hear from you. And I'm so interested. I am so interested in what brings you here, Pisces. What are you trying to figure out? What questions do you have? Is this like a fun dalliance? Are you kind of just seeing what it's all about? Or do you have some serious things going on? Do you have, some insights that you're looking for? Now, I'm not going to change the way that I read. And, really, honestly, every reading is quite different because I just kind of, wing it. I don't have a very specific format. But I do. I like to kind of reacquaint myself with what are you thinking about? What is on your mind? Because I could do readings that I like all day long. Right? I just go where I'm interested. But sometimes I have to realize that, I do this every day. I'm thinking about these things constantly. So my vision can get a little narrowed into my own interests, right? If you've noticed, sometimes the topics are things that, maybe aren't generally interesting to people, but they're interesting to me. So I like to check in. I like to see what everybody is kind of into. Now, let's go ahead. We're going to get started here. It looks like we have a school right here. Immediately, I was thinking this is like going off to school. Now, we have a person standing here, and then over here, it's a person standing holding an umbrella with all of this stuff going on up here. Now we have an illuminating candle over here. We have a heart. We have it looks like an axe maybe. Up here in all of this, and to me, it reminds me very much of, the chaos of mind, right? We have up here, it looks like a house right in here. You can see, and this is the little roof and like the little, You can see in the attic, it has a little window. And then just kind of, it looks like we have the word Cindy, maybe, or maybe like Cheyenne. It looks like we have a C, a Y, and an N. Maybe Cynthia. So anyhow, we're going to come down here. We're going to look at this. I feel like there must have been some kind of, and this is the feeling that I'm really getting, is like going to school in the morning. Going, and it feels like walking to school, and it's chilly and it's gray. But there seems to be a relief to get away from the home, because the home feels like a place that there's a lot going on. Like, I feel like your childhood home, it was really loud. Maybe there were a lot of kids. I feel like your parents maybe lived unconventional lifestyles, because there does seem to be the kind of an ache of shame in the background. And as an adult, you might not perceive it that way or experience the thought of your parents in that way. But when you were a kid, and we all do, no matter how cool and, up with the Joneses our parents are, there's always going to be things they do that we're like, yo, that's super embarrassing, But I do feel like there was something about their lifestyle, or maybe the way that they behaved or communicated or dressed or something, where I almost kind of feel like you were like somewhat embarrassed. Okay. I feel that you definitely were kind of the black sheep of the family, maybe the middle child. But I don't think like so noticeably like different that like if somebody just saw you, they'd be like, oh, it's like one of those pictures, like a Christmas picture where everybody's in their Christmas, sweater. And then there's the one goth family member, dressed in their band shirts and whatever. No, I don't think it was like that. But I think that you absolutely felt very different from your family. Acutely aware of, I don't know, just kind of like how people interacted with you because of maybe like your family was a little different, or maybe your family didn't like, fall in line with the community, didn't belong to the right, like church or country club or, whatever it is. And I feel like for you, those years were hard. I feel like they were very difficult. But here's the deal. I think that as you got older, as you've grown up in your life, obviously you're probably a full adult. I imagine, and it does feel to me, that you became kind of the guardian of others. I think that you are somebody that really goes out of your way to stick up for people. You're probably kind of like socially minded, community minded. I feel that like, especially the most vulnerable people, it's like, kids, adult, elderly, people that have, different things going on, either, emotionally, cognitively, or physically. And I feel that you are somebody that really, you pay attention. You pay attention, you try to be of service, to be helpful, but even more so than any of that, I think you're very much an advocate. I think that you do help directly, of course, but I think that you're also somebody, and we definitely need people like this. I'm not like this at all. I've never been like a let's go protest racist, or I don't, like, oh my gosh, for instance, like I live in a really small area, like rural, right? And I always lived in the city, or like at least the burbs, right? And I mean, I knew what local government was, and I'm not going to say if I vote or not, but at times I have voted. And I don't want to go, we're not going to talk about any of that. I'm like, oh no, I'm starting to get the sweats here. I'm like getting myself in a corner. Not the conversation that, if you are having any kind of political conversation, miss me with that. I do not engage in real life, in my private life, online, no. So anyhow, I never really knew about like local government, right? Like to me, it was always just kind of like, oh yeah, well, somebody must like, run the school board, or, is like I don't even know, like a park, like that show Parks and Rec, like they do stuff like that. I don't know. So anyways, like living in a small area, now I'm seeing, it's like my neighbor's like, I don't know, like treasurer of the town or something, you know what I mean? And it's like, you can see that people, actually do these things. And I know that's so naive. You're probably like scoffing at me right now. But, I just was super disconnected from anything like that. I didn't grow up around people that were interested in politics to that degree. And I definitely did not come from a family that was like super, involved in community stuff. So, it's kind of foreign to me a little bit. But here's the deal. As I get older and get more involved with stuff because of my daughter, I'm blaming her. I love you, babe, but you are the reason that I have to be out in the world. And seeing that, yeah, this stuff is important to people. And not only that, we need people that care about it. Because people like me, I'm too scared. I could not even begin to think about going to like a town hall meeting and getting up there and talking. I would literally start crying. And I talk for a living. Right? So, you, my darling, my sweet one, my little beautiful Pisces, we need you. And if you are somebody who does advocate for people, you're involved in the community, you care about stuff, you're not like a cynic yet, right? You still believe in, I don't even know, maybe the system and the process. And I do. I feel like coming from a place that felt so chaotic, and maybe even, a little bit that you felt like you didn't have a voice, you weren't being listened to, especially if you come from a big family, right? And you're somewhere in the middle there. It's very easy to feel like you haven't been heard. Okay, so I do see this being very connected to each other. I see you maybe even becoming, like, maybe you are a teacher. Maybe you got into, teaching or being in that realm because school, and I feel like school was a reprieve for you. I think that you did pretty well in school. Maybe not like, valedictorian or whatever they're called. But, on the honor roll and involved in activities and stuff like that. And I feel like you knew what it was to have some kind of sanctuary in a place of learning. And that is the truth for a lot of kids. Especially if you're coming from a household that is unstable, or, the parents are working all the time and still not able to, make ends meet. And, you're going to school to eat lunches and stuff like that. A lot of things, or just getting away from the chaos of the house. I always tell my daughter, I want her to always stick up for herself and be kind to others, and just, kind of be in like a baseline of, realizing that people have stuff going on we just don't know about. they could seem like on the outside to have a perfect life. They got all the right toys, they have the right shoes, their hair's always combed, they're, fun and smart and all of this stuff. And then they go home to a place that is like hell for them. Sometimes that's the truth. And sometimes you can see it on people, that they're living a rough life. Like, that's how I grew up. I was like that little dirtbag kid that had like mismatched clothes and I was always crusty for some reason. Like, I totally was that kid. My parents just said we were hippies or whatever. It was not. Also, I was coming up in the 90s. Like, come on now, you're gonna send me out like that? But yeah, and I always tell her, like, you just have to be kind to people. You don't have to accept their mistreatment, but you have to, like, at least be empathetic. You have to think about, like, there's something driving this behavior, or I might need to be a little more careful with people because you just never know. Life is not easy for anybody. I don't care how privileged you are or what you have going on. Life is rough for all of us to some degree. So I do believe that you having this deeper understanding for, maybe, struggling a little bit. That these places like school, like the library, like the, I don't know, like the YMCA where the kids go to have their little after school camps and stuff. These are the places that can be, now they aren't always, but they can be a safe place, a place to be able to rest, to let their nervous system get regulated, to feel like, at least I know I'm going to eat while I'm here today, that kind of thing. And I feel like you have given yourself to being there for other people, because you understand it on a level that most people, maybe they understand it, but then they don't, you don't always think about what people are going through, unless I had a kid, I wouldn't be like even remotely thinking about what young children and school-age children, like what they're thinking about, what they're into, what's going on in their world. I had no idea. When I was having a kid, I was like, I didn't ever have friends that had kids, that, I never babysat kids. I did not have babies or children around me when I was growing up, until I was a little older, right? But even so, when my friends started having kids, I just kind of didn't hang out with them because my world was not kid friendly at all. And then, I got pregnant with my husband, and it's the whole world changes, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this whole reality is going on, and I didn't even know what was going on, But when you are somebody who stays kind of engaged in that, I think oftentimes it's people that really want to, help children, provide the education or spaces for them to learn in, to really, have like a nurturing, fostered kind of environment. And to me, that's beautiful. I fully respect and am thankful for. But it doesn't have to be that you're working with kids. I mean, generally, maybe this just opened you up to having greater empathy for people or animals or whatever, whatever it is in general that you kind of find yourself drawn to. So I'm looking at this here. So we have a person who's kind of their head is leaned down and their posture is kind of, but then we have another person in front of them who is like placing a crown on their head. And behind them, somebody else lifting something up as well. Like it's like they're crowning this person. So I feel like you're so much in a place in your life where you're really starting to like take your leadership role. I think that you are probably coming into, I don't know, maybe becoming a grandparent, or, maybe you're getting a position within your work that really, like, it confirms, like, yes, I've been working for years to get to where I'm at. I've, been working on all these, like, adding programs to my, whatever company or business or service that you, work within. You are developing. You are a person that is growing and developing things. And I think that has earned you either like a raise or a higher position or something like this. I feel, though, that you really are having maybe a moment, and this is maybe why you're looking over your past, right? Kind of thinking about things, about your histories. But I really do. I feel like you almost kind of like don't know if this is the right role for you. Like, I feel like you're maybe a person that, like I said, a middle child energy, where it's like, yeah, you want to be involved and help and all this, but you don't necessarily want to be the one that's in charge, like the head of the family or the head of your department or, whatever. But I feel like this is going to be a natural progression towards this archetype. You're somebody that people trust. I think that you're pretty level-headed. You take your time before you make a decision, and you're really good at staying the course. Like, you're not the parent that, like, says, oh, if you say that one more time, I am taking whatever away from you. And then they say it, and then you say, all right, I'm taking the thing. You don't immediately give it back. No, you do the consequence, right? All the way through. You are a person that has integrity. You say what you mean what you say. People know this about you. You just exude that energy. So I can see why they trust you. I can see why you would probably be a great, candidate for some kind of public-facing position. Okay? So I feel like as this is all kind of coming together as well, we have two people dancing right here. One here, one here. They're embracing. We also have the letter E right here. Okay. And to me, it feels like as you are kind of really coming into this place, whatever relationship that you have or is growing, I really feel like they complement your vision. Okay. I feel like you have similar goals, and whatever goals that you have that you share with them, they are fully on board and supportive. I think you're very lucky. You have a partner that, like, meets your energy. You both really ride for each other. And if you don't have somebody right now, this could also be like a best friend. It could be your mom. It could be your adult son. It could be whoever, right? It could be that you are also going to meet somebody, that really does, like, come into your life and fits right in, Let's see. We have the number 77777 right there. So many sevens. So 7 is important. Also the letter M. Okay, the letter M. Now, let's go over here. We're going to take a look at this one. Look at this. We have another 7, and it looks like a house. Okay, so we have a masculine kind of fertility deity right next to it. It looks like we have the phallus, okay? The lingam. And it feels like a natural spirit. Like a straw man or something like that. not Pan. Maybe the Green Man. Something like this. A watcher, indeed. When you go outside, you've been feeling the presence of something. I do feel like there is a calling to give offering. I am a firm believer wherever we live, we have to commune with the land around us. I don't care if you live in an apartment. I don't care if you live in a trailer. I don't care if you live in the middle of the city or out on an island by yourself. It doesn't matter. We have to commune with what I call the backyard spirits. And these are the many different intelligences that live among us, or we live among them, or together we live. The minerals, the plant life, the fungi, the animal life, all of the things, So I have talked about fairly recently about consecrating ground and making sure that you do consecrate the ground that your home or temple is upon, blessing the corners, blessing the closest crossroads by your home. And also I don't know, I'm very superstitious. We leave offerings for the fae, for the animal spirits, for whatever else might be out there. I live on the prairies, so we have a lot of wind spirits and things like that. So making some kind of offering. This year I heavily focused on things like mullein as offering, braided grass, also fruits and vegetables, definitely. For whatever I take from the garden, I always offer at least a piece of it, a few tomatoes or, part of a potato that didn't go, didn't, maybe got a little mushy or whatever. You cut it up, you put it outside, especially the herbs. I like to offer herbs as well. We have offerings to the trees and so on and so forth. So, all of this being said, I do feel like there's a spirit, or at least the energetic presence of this archetype. And it feels to me that there needs to be some kind of like a communing, maybe towards, it feels like towards the northeast of the home. The northeast. So I would say whatever it is that you're comfortable with, go and give offering. You could write a letter. You could put a piece of bread in the window, oranges at the front door, or, whatever it is. Get creative with it. I love getting creative with my offerings. Absolutely. Okay, so what we're going to do, I want to go to the oracle cards. I want to see kind of what the radiant sun, oracle of the radiant sun, is going to tell us today. So my question for you, Spirit, is I want to know what Pisces is going to have happening, I don't know, say in the next 2 weeks. Heading into November pretty soon. What does Pisces have to expect? Okay. And I should have said this at the beginning. I don't know how many people are still here, but I am recording this on October the 8th, 2025, and it will be coming out October the 9th, 2025, and I just want to put that in there. One, because I've heard that other, supposedly anyways. These are allegations. I have no proof and I have no idea. I haven't even looked. Because honestly, I don't care. But I've heard that some other channels, I don't know if they're even in the divination niche, but I've seen it in my comments. People have said people re-upload old readings and old videos. I have never done that. And I don't know. I mean, you can go through and watch them all. So, they're all very different. And in fact, yeah, go and watch every reading I've ever posted. And come back and tell me. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, you can go back and watch them. They're all timeless. But that's one reason. The other reason is I want you to know what day it was recorded, so you can go back whenever you hear this and look what was going on in your world when this reading was, recorded. So anyways, let's begin. We have risk. We have indecision and isolation. Okay, so yeah. Obviously, we're talking to a Pisces, so whenever you have something to think about, something to decide on, you go MIA, obviously. We all know this about you, Pisces. You're probably, in my mind, I'm like, okay, they're hanging out. They might be smoking. They might be... watching reality TV or something like that, all cozied up, and working out some of the stuff that they have to figure out, right? Making their plans, getting it all set up in their mind. But I do feel like, whatever it is that you are kind of deciding about, there is a risk. It's not going to be just like some, whatever, you make the decision, you never think about it again. This is a fundamental change for you. So patience, taking your time with it, okay? Don't just make an impulsive decision. I know you won't. Coral, okay. So I feel like probably other people in your life are not understanding like what you're doing, where you're coming from. I do feel like you've gotten some pushback. I don't think that you care for that at all. Like you weren't even asking, right? And then ultimately excitement. So I do feel like whatever decision you end up making, you start to get that like, ooh, what if, start thinking about what could be happening here. What is it that, I'm going to let myself like daydream about, I don't know about you. I don't like to get too far in like my hopefulness of things. Obviously I've had kind of a difficult life. And I'm sorry, I had to pick up a card I dropped. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's not that I would like feel foolish if I'm like let down. I just don't want the heartache. I don't want to like get all pumped up about something, and then have to like, oh man, so I get it. I don't know. I get it. But I do feel like, this time in this place, as these things are playing out, there is a lot of excitement rising for you as you are allowing yourself to think like, oh, maybe this means I can, or this time I'm able to, or, I've always wanted to do whatever. And here you go. Your chance is arriving sooner than you imagine. All right, let's do our lucky numbers, then we're going to get out of here. 94. 94, where did it go? 94 is the first one. These are 37, number 37. Usually I put this here so it doesn't. And number 6. Number 6. All right. Well, Pisces, I want to tell you I love you because I do. Thank you for being here with me. If you want to like, subscribe, or leave a comment, I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, I'm going to say good night, good night, good night. I love you. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.